over anyone at the FBI any day.
Welcome, everyone, to the captive audience. It is the 27th of November. You just heard it straight from Mr. Less Government equals more fun, David Darnell. I am Kevin Hoare, who is not yet fleeing Portland.
Yet being the operative word, right?
Not yet. And we will talk tonight about many who have decided that is actually the best course of action, and it's getting harder to talk them out of it, to be honest.
Yeah. You still have one kid in school in Portland?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, although not really in Portland. That's the issue. Is it's really Washington County or that area. So, and it's kind of like this invisible line that criminals who are not completely whacked out on meth and stupid know that if they get caught in Washington County, they get prosecuted 95% of the time, and they go to Multnomah and it's like 48%, and that's just for theft.
They should put a sign. They should put a sign on every street where the county line is, right at the county line, saying,
"Yeah,
don't step over this line."
That's a heck of a good idea. It makes all the sense in the world.
Well, if I were the Washington County Sheriff, I'd see it done.
Well, it's just like when you put a sign in your yard that says you have an alarm system, and people are like, "Well, I think I'll skip this house and go to the one that has no sign."
Right.
You know, unfortunately, I don't think you can get away nowadays with putting a sign out there saying, my 357 Magnum is waiting to greet you, business end first. You can't do that. So.
Yeah, if it's not already, it will be a crime.
That's right.
It'll be assault.
It's only a matter.
Yeah, it'll be assault somehow.
It'll be assault words. You've used assault words. Yeah. So better watch out.
It's getting crazy in some of our fellow Western nations in Europe as far as these hate speech laws, which the whole concept is just so foreign, to most Americans, and it's really foreign to me because you can't define it.
Right. No, I mean, that's very true. It's like, you know what you can more easily define? You can define dumb speech. And they haven't made that illegal yet, because apparently sometimes even Republicans utter dumb speech. And why don't we lead off with a story about dumb speech? The Wyoming governor, a Republican, has apparently ignited a firestorm of criticism because he decided, Wyoming Governor Mark Gordon sparked a backlash from state lawmakers, and he discussed plans to make the cowboy state carbon dioxide neutral during a talk at Harvard last month.
Shit.
His first mistake was to go to Harvard.
Wyoming? Wyoming is one of the few places in America where you see oh crap, now I can't remember the name of the company that was associated with Dick Cheney.
I know what you're talking about.
Halliburton, yeah, is one of the few places that you see people the shirt that says Halliburton or a truck that says Halliburton on it.
Well, so here's what's interesting. This is why this fell into the dumb speech category. So we'll give him the dumb speech award for today, because here's what is the case about. So he says he wants to decarbonize the West, right? But he is from a state that produces 12 times more energy than it consumes.
Yeah.
One of the products that they produce is coal.
Yeah.
And so the cowboy state with 500,000 residents produces 12 times more energy than it consumes, including 40% of the coal production in the United States. It also has a large oil and gas industry. Mm-hmm. This guy must have poop for brains, because, I mean, hey, home state, what we're going to do is we're going to shut down all of our biggest industries that we export because somebody at Harvard told us it was a good idea.
You need to look at his Y-Star.
His White
It's
Star?
White Star, yeah, isn't? I'm pretty sure that would be the Wyoming equivalent of our Orstar.
Oh yeah, who's donating some? Yeah, but even then, it's like you'd have to. I don't think you could donate enough money to make somebody that dumb because how could you? Oregon, it's a different thing. We don't produce oil and gas here.
Hardly
We
produce
obviously
anything
do.
here.
Yeah, well, actually, we do produce a lot of homelessness
We do, yeah.
and drug addiction. Yeah, we're excellent at that. We don't produce treatment.
Cutting edge,
We don't
cutting
have
edge
that.
on homeless and drug addiction.
That's right. It is it's a booming
It is,
industry
yeah,
here.
it's a growth industry.
But this guy, um, you know, you'd have to be like lobotomized to go and think this is really a super awesome. I think actually lobotomy wouldn't be enough. But he wants to start up like a whole bunch of carbon capture facilities. He wants to capture 45 million metric tons of carbon annually. He's proposed investment that would cost Wyoming somewhere around $468 million. There are 500,000 people there. That means that there are just around the same number of people in the entire state of Wyoming that there is in Washington County, Oregon.
Right. Or roughly the same, almost the same as there are millions in the cost.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it'll cost everybody in the state about 800 grand.
Yeah, and I mean, who needs Democrats? And you got a guy like this. Anyway, I don't know what he's
disheartening
thinking.
because I've got my eye on that state as my resting place.
Well, of course, does it matter where you're buried? You're talking about retirement.
Well, it
right?
does matter where you're buried. Otherwise, you get taxed to death. Well,
oh, that's true. That's true. The death tax.
What is it?
You taxed in death. It's like he was taxed to death. Now he's taxed in death. So,
yeah. Well, I like Wyoming. I spent a lot of time there, and I like the state.
Well, it's good, and maybe that's a good reason to start donating to whoever is not going to do and say dumb things like that. But for now, that's what we got, and we do have a country that unless you're prepared to move out of that, that's run by a mentally disabled buffoon. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. I'll have to read up on Gordon. I mean, that's like whoever the governor of Iowa is, pooping on the farm bill or corn subsidies.
Yeah, that's exactly.
You don't do that.
You can have a principled disagreement about something and even make an argument, but you shouldn't expect to be elected in the state where that's the situation. Go find another state that doesn't care and get elected there. But
Iowa.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's crazy. Now, so here's some interesting stuff that happened. We're talking about Portland. You could add this to the list of reasons why people might eventually be forced to flee Portland. At the Christmas tree lighting, which if you recall, I think it was 2008 or something, some guy got set up by the FBI, teenage guy, who thought he was going to blow up the Christmas tree lighting in Portland. And I knew some folks who were going to go to that day. Not me, but but that's back when I guess they still tried to catch people that wanted to do nefarious things. Now, I think they encourage it. What happened is they're described as anti-Israel rioters, and it's not. They want Israel gone. That's what they chant, is like, it needs to go away, be replaced by a country that never existed, right? Palestine.
Yeah, they're not pro-Palestinian. They're anti-Israel.
Yeah, and the people in it, which I usually saw as genocide, but okay. Some people apparently are less clear on that point.
I think it's the very definition of genocide. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And
textbook.
And so what happened at this little Christmas tree lighting is that, and it's a video that was was sent in from a source to Andy No, who did the reporting on this. Apparently, the rioters ambushed a truck driver, and then they proceeded to disrupt the Christmas tree lighting, which is basically full of a bunch of parents and young children that just wanted to hear some Christmas music and watch some lights be turned on.
Family fun, American family fun.
Yeah, and yeah, it was effectively the family fun people versus the people who hate America, trying to destroy family fun
and families, American families, yeah,
and American families. And so this article here that shows what Andy No exposed is that this terrified driver, these guys climbed into his stopped truck on Sandy Boulevard and confronted him, and scared the hell out of him. And then they proceeded over to the tree lighting ceremony. They also vandalized a Hewlett Packard sign in Corvallis, some other protesters, which, whatever. I mean, does that make you feel good? I don't know.
Those Jews, Hewlett and Packard.
That's right. Well, they just actually, I think it was just, we don't have to pay for it. It's a free sign to vandalize. They figured there's no consequences for vandalism, and that's been proven for over 3 or 4 years now. That if you do vandalism in the state of Oregon, pretty much no one ever does anything about it. So
no, you can light buildings on fire downtown. That's okay.
It's all right. Yeah, the shops have been vandalized with so-called Free Palestine stuff, Death to America.
Yeah, well, free,
and then there was
Palestine necessarily means death to America. So I would say these people who shout that are in fact enemies of the state. Just saying, Kevin.
Yeah, well, it's and you can watch the KGW video and you can see the disruption of the Christmas tree lighting, but that is just, reason 172 why everything is screwed up in Portland, because they're fine with it. Imagine if those were Proud Boys. They would have called the National Guard. Those guys a bunch of them would have had their head beat in. And others would have been arrested, and they'd throw away the key for 50 years for threatening to, to shout loudly.
Yeah. If they'd been that, our show would have been shut down for talking about it.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank goodness that didn't happen. Well, and so, let's just circle into some Portland stuff here, because I think there's a whole series of stuff. Before we do that,
hive of scum and villainy.
Exactly. Let's make a couple of political announcements. So today was an official announcement for Will Lathrop. He's the Republican candidate for Attorney General in the state of Oregon. He's raised about $300,000, and he's been working at this for quite a while. I got to meet him earlier this year, I think February, March, April. I got to meet him at least a couple of times. And so he's a serious candidate. He's somebody that is determined. And you know what? It's interesting, because a lot of problems we have in the state, if there was an attorney general actually investigating and prosecuting them, we wouldn't even have things to report here. Because, and a great example of that is Madam Val Hoyle.
Yeah, Val Hoyle would be in jail if we had a decent attorney general.
She would certainly have been investigated to the fullest extent of the law, and what she did back about a little over a week ago, is about a week and a half, is that she decided, here are the text messages you're going to get, and the other text messages you're not going to get, because my lawyer said that I don't have to give them to you. And the Bureau of Labor and Industry is saying, well, okay, we don't know if we have them all, but okay. If there was an attorney general saying, no, actually, you're going to do this, this is what Oregon law says, and filed suit to have those things, a warrant issued for the seizure of the phone and other materials, then we'd have it all, and then we'd probably see a bunch of things that she didn't want people to have.
Right.
Assuming she hasn't bleach bitted the rest of it at this point.
Right. Hillary Clinton did.
Exactly. Well, if you get Clinton, that's actually much worse.
Clorox Clinton.
That's well, no, it's more. If you get Clinton, that means that you knew something
Oh
and you're too dangerous to live, and so
Gee,
you've been
You
suicided.
voluntarily killed
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll probably get blocked for saying that, but oh well. No, but here's the interesting thing is that after taking a major beating with the launch of Monique Despain's campaign on the 16th, where constant news coverage occurred, where she was pointing out that Val Hoyle is at best ethically challenged and perhaps outright corrupt and obstructing investigation of her activities at the Bureau of Labor and Industry when she was running for Congress. The next day, she turned in at least some text messages and then declared herself free and clear. Well, then the next week, a story comes out from the Daily Kos, and it is a website. It's a left-wing website. They carry water for the far left progressives. They used to have a convention actually where conservative media would try to go and attend the convention, and they would get shouted out of there and kicked out onto the street and arrested and stuff for reporting what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, Val was described as by the Daily Kos as one of the new faces in Congress that they're profiling. She's been in office for a year almost, and she's a new face. And I guess they realized that they had to rewrite her bio after what happened during the last year. And they emphasized in this story that she hasn't always been a politician. In fact, she spent more time in the private sector than she has serving constituents. Well, I believe she spent more time doing almost anything else than serving constituents, because so far all the feedback is there aren't any constituents that are satisfied that they've been served. But that's just, anecdotal. I can't, give you any numbers on that yet. However, then I recalled earlier this year in January, right after she was sworn in, back when she actually was a new face in Congress, she's not, this much later, she was touted by her hometown newspaper as being, says, Nashua native Val Hoyle looks back on nearly 50 years in politics. So she's a new face, and so somehow she spent more than 50 years. She must be 105 years old, and which is an amazing accomplishment all by itself. I don't know if her pictures conveyed just how old she was, but yeah, I'll give her the credit. She does not look 100, a day over 105. And so there you go.
I wonder how many text messages are on her phone from Rosa Caceres or Mitchell, Aaron Mitchell.
Well, according to Boley, they have no idea. The spokesperson for Boley says, we have no idea. We have no idea what we did receive compared to what we didn't receive. And so therefore we don't know. But Val Hoyle said in the article that came out in the Oregonian on the 17th, when she rushed to turn in text messages after getting literally scorched in the media for 24 hours, that she said her lawyer, who used to work for Kate Brown, which is a great sign for any lawyer. They're extremely honest if they work for Kate Brown. Madazar, Emily, I think Madazar, she was famous for actually having public information disclosure problems working for Kate Brown. Who'd have thought? I mean, Kate Brown, not straight with the public? I'm shocked. But anyway, so this lawyer that she hired apparently has blessed everything that Val's done, and she considers the matter concluded. But I think we're going to find that that's actually not the case.
Boy, the
But they
taxpayers
played.
are so relieved.
Yeah, yeah, because I'm sure there's nothing in the rest of the text messages she didn't turn in that would be bad for her. Nothing, I'm sure. Because you would actually, she spent 11 months trying to figure out what not to turn
Yeah.
in. So I'm sure she was very
Yeah.
thorough.
Hey, Val, Aaron here. Did you get that cash?
That's right. Well, so, but here's what I loved about this, and I thought you'd enjoy about this article, is that the Daily Kos praised her as a Oregon-based friend of workers everywhere. Friend of workers everywhere. Yeah, suddenly I found myself hearing this, this old John Lennon song, "Working class hero is something to be." That she's just this amazing, and of course she does have this union background to her family.
Workers of the world unite.
That's just
Union, Marxist, same thing.
She is down with the whole thing. And then they also said, but sometimes she has moderate views. I don't know what they are, but I know she has moderate views because she has to. She wouldn't have them if she didn't have to, as what was implied by this article. And so, I guess if this is a great way to run your campaign is to be a working class hero of some kind, then so be it. I just don't know what it is that she's done for her district as of this point in time.
Yeah, I don't live in her district, so I wouldn't know. I was in her district. I would have been in her district before redistricting.
You're just outside of it now, right?
What's that?
You're just a short distance outside of it, someplace.
I'm not sure exactly how far I am out of it geographically, but I am in 2 now, District 2 with Pence.
Well, her Twitter account. This is what the article says about her. They say Hoyle may not be a familiar face of the national talk show circuit. I'm sure they're going to start clamoring to bring her face on.
She's a dynamo on Twitter.
Well, yeah. She's a dynamo on Twitter as only having 1,800 Twitter followers.
Wow.
I know you would laugh at that.
Larry the bot probably has more than that.
I know. I think a cat who actually set up their own account probably has more followers than that, by accident, by just randomly hitting keys and then signed up and got on Twitter. Probably has more followers at this point and should.
Yeah.
For plenty of good reasons. But and so that's probably the roundup of the political news today. Now, here's something ironic. She announced that she was stepping down as majority leader to run for Secretary of State in 2016, and she was in the Democratic primary in 2016. And this is how Val Hoyle first, tried to climb the ladder. She ran for Secretary of State and lost to Brad Avakian,
the Democrat,
who is probably the single worst Democrat candidate of this quarter century.
The Democrat that no Democrat likes.
I know, nobody liked him. She lost to him.
Must be a real.
And oh yeah, and then Dennis Richardson, came in and mopped the floor with Brad Avakian and became the first Republican Secretary of State since 1976. So, but they never give up. They just keep clamoring for positions and trying to climb the ladder. And Hakeem Jeffries thinks she's doing a great job, which probably means she doesn't give a crap about the district. And that's why they're writing these glowing editorials about being a friend of workers everywhere. It's just that, they can't decide what her message is. Is she a veteran of 50 years of politics? Is she a veteran of 50 years of politics, or is she brand new to politics, like a new face?
The DNC's thinking, how are we going to keep her in office?
I think they might not succeed because there's obviously a great challenger that's filed, and And there's a lot of work ahead. You know, the Democrats, they still play for keeps. They drag literally everybody they can across the finish line, but that doesn't get that we're not off the hook. We have to do our part. So, yeah, we got to put our noses
Is
in the
CD4, is it D+4 or
D
D+5?
plus four, D
D
plus
plus
four.
That's
Yeah, and the non-affiliated voters in many of those counties kind of skew uh, sort of Republican more than they used to, kind of flannel shirt Democrats that don't feel like they have a strong connection to the Democrat Party anymore. Yeah.
Democrats with
So,
the hunting rifle.
yeah, hunting rifle, and they don't necessarily like paying a lot of taxes, and they aren't thrilled with the crime, and
They like their natural gas stove
they like their natural
and
gas
heat
stoves
and heat.
and heat.
That
Or
furnace.
propane, which, you know, if you think, hey, I got propane, I'm fine. Nobody's coming for me. Sorry. Do you think they can tell the difference? They're just going to take that away too.
Yeah.
That's easier, actually. So,
Yeah. It is.
so we, you know, that's sort of the political news. Shifting gears here back to Portland. So, well, actually, let's start outside of Portland. An elderly seaside man who tried to help a homeless teenager um, wound up getting beaten with a chain and a padlock, stabbed in the lung, and left for dead in his garage. He was an 80-year-old victim who told police that he'd seen the teenager around McDonald's in Astoria 3 or 4 times and purchased food for him. But on October 27th, the 18-year-old boy, Isaiah James Thompson, contacted the victim asking if he could buy him drugs. He drove the teen to his home, gave him a beer, and let him shower. But when he entered the garage, the teenager hit him in the face 20 or 30 times and stabbed him in the lung before stealing his Ford Mustang. He drove more than 100 miles an hour, crashed the car, fled on foot. Police arrested Thompson on charges of attempted murder, robbery, unlawful use of a weapon, and booked him into Clatsop County Jail.
Wow. Well, let's hope Clatsop County prosecutes crime.
I think they do. I think there's only maybe 3 or 4 jurisdictions that seem to have a problem doing that in the state. We know Multnomah is one of them. But it's tragic, but at the same time, it just shows that this isn't just a problem about being charitable towards people that might have fallen on hard times.
Yeah. What a sad story. Try to help someone and they turn on you like a rabid Doberman. I guess the homeless aren't as needy as we would like them to think. You would think a needy homeless person who just needs a hand up would be more than happy to receive a hand up without attempting to kill the person whose hand was helping them up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And, you know, I think the problem goes beyond just somebody that's, you know, out of the, I think what we've got is we've got an entire state mental illness a constellation of state mental illness hospitals that have just externalized the problem onto the streets of Portland. But it turns out that there's a pretty high bar for hospitalizing mentally ill folks on the streets without their consent. And since many of them are taking fentanyl or meth because they're hanging around in these communities where it's super cheap, it's
and legal,
and legal, yeah, totally legal, cheap and legal, that they are really not able to do anything about some of these folks. And then you've got places like Multnomah County where they don't do anything even if they can do something about them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we really missed the boat on helping the homeless.
Yes. Yeah, we're helping them to death.
Did you see our friend Angela Todd, PDX Real, did a thing? I think it was a Forbes article comparing is it Milwaukee, Wisconsin? Maybe another town in Wisconsin, roughly the same size as Portland. It has one quarter the budget as Portland. Has an estimated homeless population of about 30. and Portland has an estimated homeless population of about 6,500. But she went through all these things. If you're on Instagram, check it out on PDX Real. It's pretty interesting, the difference in philosophy with a quote homeless problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Where the chief challenge that they're facing is just not the lack of a home.
No. I mean, I'm almost certain I could not maintain a home if I was smoking fentanyl all day. I mean,
It
I
would be
could, I
super
could keep
tough.
it for a while, but
Yeah, and at some point, you'll do anything to get the fentanyl and the meth, and so it all goes. So I found her Instagram page. I also know that she puts stuff out on Twitter. By the way, she reached 100,000 followers on Instagram, which is a great
yeah,
accomplishment.
it is a great
Congratulations.
accomplishment. She does a great job. She has a real good feel for presenting the issues that face Portlanders in a non-combative, non-right-wing nut job type way.
Yeah, I found this is the Portland spends 4 times the money as Milwaukee, has less than half the police, but has 240 times the homeless population as Milwaukee. Where's the money going? Well, that's a great question.
It is a great question, and that's what
And
she's spurring people who live and vote in Portland to ask.
well, and that's the question with almost all of this money, because I also just posted, for instance, not only do we have this high threshold for even getting people off the streets and into treatment who clearly have just lost the ability to even reason and take care of themselves,
Oh, yeah.
and then they're taking drugs on top of it. We don't have the ability to get them in there without them saying, yeah, that's a good idea, and but jails across Oregon are actually on the forefront of treating, according to this, substance use disorders, and they have funding challenges and medical staff shortages. Now, there's like a couple $2 billion floating around right now in the state that are supposed to be going to treating this stuff and providing resources. And every time I hear about what's going on, the places where the actual treatment and all this stuff is being compelled to take place, they don't have any resources. I don't understand what they think they're doing, but they're just not spending it. And then this is the best. Here's the best story that caps this all off. So last year, Multnomah County started a downtown homeless resource center. Right? It's to provide
Thank
these
God.
funding. Yeah, I know. They just noticed there was a problem. They finally started it. It's the Behavioral Health Resource Center in downtown Portland. It was opened up by the county of Multnomah a year ago, and it is now facing a $3.3 million funding gap for next year.
Oh my God, we need to get them more money.
Well, that's just it. So what did they spend the money on, and why were they so terrible? And by the way, there's this ocean of funds coming in for Measure 110 that's supposed to fund all of this. And we keep hearing about how they haven't figured out how to spend all the money they have. And yet the center they started is already out of money.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of makes you wonder, what did they do with the money? You got my friend Randy down there in Salem, who spends about maybe $4,000 or $5,000 a month helping homeless people, works 7 days a week, doesn't take a salary, gets absolutely no support from any state agency, and is actually doing some good for homeless people in Salem. And yet there's just millions of dollars floating around these so-called homeless resources and homeless services center. And it's just all going in someone's pocket. It's being kicked back and probably donations to Democrats.
Well, and then on top of that, there's this whole industrial complex that's come into being. And yet, it's not even just a problem in the city. I stumbled upon this article, which is that half of the people using opioids in rural areas were recently incarcerated. Those are in rural areas. We know it's even worse in the city, where you see it, concentrated. But even in rural areas, they have a problem. And it's all been fueled by the way they've handled all of this, Measure 110, and just the utter failure to recognize what does and doesn't work, and yet you still have people doubling down and insisting that what we're doing works, and what it needs is more money.
Yeah. By every metric, it does work to create more homeless and drug addicted people, because
Yeah,
that's exactly what the metric is telling us. Is that the more money we spend, the more homeless and the more drug addicted people we have in the state of Oregon, centering around Portland, where they know they won't go to jail for the crimes they commit to feed their habits.
well, it's starting to have some more serious consequences. So after 113 years, Larog Jewelers, we've all heard those ads that they run. I think they actually ran a lot of ads on Lars Larson, if I
Yeah,
recall.
yeah.
They've closed their stores in Portland after 113 years, and then they attribute it to crime, taxes, and just fewer families even inhabiting the city, which used to drive some of the demand, married couples and families and so on, for their goods. And uh, they another famous jewelry store closed after 90 years last year. I guess that's one thing you can say, is that the drug addicted homeless that have come to Portland, they're not lining up for jewelry. It's not important.
Only if they think they can steal it.
Well, that's just it, which is the other reason, because it's really hard to stay in business when everybody steals your product.
Yeah.
So
I was in a little hardware store in a tiny town today, and some guy was trying to walk out with a handful of stuff. And
right there,
he walked out after he and his buddies loaded a bunch of lumber into his truck.
right there. Yeah, right in broad daylight, huh?
Yeah, right in broad daylight. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, he put the stuff back, by the way.
oh, that makes it fine.
Yeah, it was suggested by a couple of the younger male employees there that he put it back.
Hmm. Just simply standing up to this stuff. Imagine what police protection would do. Holy cow. Well,
Oh,
so
don't get me started on police protection in our little town, because I'll now be paying $6,000 more a year to have it
yeah.
in tax.
Well, I guess the burden's on them to show that there's $6,000 worth of results, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
No.
Sure, you're not.
No.
So apparently, the reason why this store closed after 136 years, the repeated break-ins and burglaries that they had to deal with over the years, which cost money and tried their patience. It matters when stores are broken into by shoplifting mobs and people using cars to ram the doors of the shops in the middle of the night. And then the insurance costs spike and security demands increase, and it gets more expensive just to stay in business. Then don't forget, I mean, COVID obviously did a damage to a lot of businesses, but politicians at the time passed higher income taxes, and especially on businesses. One of the taxes was the 2019 corporate activities tax that basically kicked every business in the gonads and said, you should get the hell out of here. And you know how I know that they know that it was hurting these businesses? Because just today, Tina Kotek, there was an article noting that she has actually conceded that they need to have a, what do they call it? A moratorium on tax increases. A moratorium.
Now that she's no longer governor.
No, this is not Kate Brown. This is Tina Kotek.
Oh, Tina Kotek. Oh,
Tina
wow.
Kotek. Well, it was actually this group she formed, which I'm sure will be scuttled soon for saying wrong.
Scuttled for wrong think.
Wrong thing.
What the hell's wrong with you people? Moratorium on tax increases.
You contradicted our socialist dumb speak with your wrong think.
Good
Stop
God.
it. Well, so they said that, in particular, they said Clackamas and Washington has to stop raising taxes. And this is apparently, even though Multnomah's been voting for all these tax increases. And of course, the biggest problem they have is that, so they want to have a 3-year tax increase moratorium because apparently they can't stop themselves. Why don't they pass a 3-year fentanyl moratorium and see if people will stop taking it? Yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, but here's sort of the bottom line is that our friends at the Oregon Catalyst, they put together a chart which shows what's happening to all of the income. The view of the dollars that are fleeing Portland, apparently just people leaving. Everyone outside, the personal income, the chart shows the growth in personal income and how everyone outside Portland's borders is growing by at least 2%, while Portland struggles to grow at 0.5%. And this is, coming out of the COVID recovery. And you can see the money leaving Portland.
Yeah.
And it shows that this is why there are Starbucks, Walmarts, and Targets that have closed, but not in Washington and Clackamas County.
No.
You can see where the population changes have been occurring
Or Marion.
in just the past couple of years, and everybody's getting the hell out.
Yeah.
That can.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's tax hell in Multnomah County. You got Metro, TriMet, all of that shit. Is piled onto either employees or employers, which is basically employees. And I mean, if you can do business just out of the Portland city limits, why wouldn't you? Or Multnomah or Tri-County area. I was talking to a client one time. He owned a business, and he said, yeah, we're really, we're getting to the point where we just can't pay any more of these taxes. And I said, well, why don't you move out of the Tri-County area? And he goes, well, that's a pretty good idea. I said, yeah. I have a house in Hubbard, lived there for many years. There's lots of companies. In fact, almost all of the companies that are there have moved out of the Tri-County area because it's just, it's 20 minutes from downtown Portland. It's in Marion County, so it doesn't have the, the metro taxes and the TriMet taxes and all that other crap. So you can just do business there and pay less.
You can just do business. You don't have to worry about being assaulted when you go to your car.
No, there are no homeless people there. There was a homeless person who showed up in this. It's kind of funny. Just a vacant lot when I was a kid. It used to be a billboard there, but somehow the city got it and they made it into this park. It's just a tiny little thing, but this homeless guy showed up at the park and police they were there 10 minutes later. And they said, no, you can't hang out here. You can't. There's a leaving Hubbard sign to your north, and there's one to your south. Go pick one.
And in Portland, there would be a legal defense fund with a team of lawyers who would jump in and sue to prevent anything from being done.
Right.
And then they'd go out and they'd raise more money off the fact they just kept another vagrant in a park, throwing hypodermic needles everywhere and pooping on the sidewalk in front of kids.
Right.
They would celebrate that. So but it's interesting because there's some other concerns voters have. It turns out that on the list of concerns that registered voters have across the country, inflation tops the list. They're really concerned about inflation because even though Democrats are telling us that inflation has slowed down, inflation is just the rate of increase. Prices are not going down.
No, prices are. They have inflated, and they're not going to go down. People need to understand that. The money has been printed, the money has been devalued, and now this is the new amount of money to buy what you used to buy with less money.
Yep. Yeah, and now people can't buy as much of what they used to. So at some point, it actually, whether interest rates do it or inflation does it, you end up with an economic slowdown because people can't buy as much stuff.
Right.
That's a slowdown.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because
then you add the high interest rates in there in an effort to contract the money supply, and that makes it even more difficult for people to afford things that they finance. I mean, there are no 9.9% credit cards anymore.
Nope. No, and you know what? And it's interesting. So in this poll, I'll mention two other things, and then you just touched upon something that I think we also have to watch here, which is the second highest concern was illegal immigration at 35%, which surprised me a little bit. Because crime and violence was third at 27, a close 27%. But it was
Interesting.
48% that said inflation. And those three issues right there, none of them works for Democrats.
No,
Or at least they shouldn't.
no, they don't work for
But
Republicans either, but a lot of
sometimes they don't,
a lot of
especially if you don't know how to
Republicans,
make them work.
yeah, they haven't worked for Republicans since Eisenhower.
But there is somebody to blame for your 82% increase in the cost of gasoline and your 96% increase in the cost of groceries. We'll see what people that are new to the political process do, because unfortunately, some people actually printed too much money in the past, and some of them were Republicans, right?
All of the Republicans since Eisenhower have printed almost as much as every Democrat. Clinton was the only president in 60 years to have, no, 70 years to have 4 years of budget surplus.
Well, and he was forced to by Newt Gingrich, basically, and the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans.
That was the last time any Republican gave a shit about the value of your money.
Yeah. Well, and if you're on senior on fixed income, yeah, watch out.
Yeah.
Because,
well, I mean, if you have money saved and you're living off that money, you are, if you have it invested in, safe annuity type investments, you are making more money off of it, but your base amount is contracting. Its buying power is contracting. And, it looks like Biden is on track to add $7-8 trillion worth of printing to the tally, on top of Trump's 7 trillion, on top of Obama's, 11 trillion or some ungodly amount, or 8-9 trillion, whatever it was, on top of Bush's 2 or 3 trillion. But it just keeps going on and on and on, and people don't understand what the basic problem is here. They don't understand that if you don't stop the spending, the money printing will continue, and the value of each and every dollar that you have or that you make in the future is worth less. I mean, what is a living wage now? $30 an hour? $35 an hour?
yeah.
Think about it. I mean, that's, people like my age go, damn, that's a lot of money. It's not.
Yeah, not anymore. No, not when, gasoline is 82% more expensive. You're probably behind the curve still.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and so here's another thing is with the increase in interest rates, it turns out that home sales this year are on the worst pace since 1993. And so people can't afford to buy homes. That's really another form of inflation, is when the cost, and you do need a place to live and you want to purchase it, and the interest rate goes up and your payment triples in just 4 years, then you don't buy a home, or you buy less of a home, or whatever. But the kind of home that you could have gotten 4 years ago didn't become 3 times more valuable.
No.
What it did is it became 3 times more expensive to buy it. That's inflation.
Well, it's right. It's rising prices. I mean, rising prices can be supply and demand. It can be, economy shutdown. It can be, a bunch of things. But, the fact is the inflation of the money supply is what makes them more expensive. So, yeah, your $100,000 house you didn't, your $300,000 house that you bought in 2019, is worth 400,000 of today's dollars. But the real problem is interest rates are 8%, which, people my age, that's nothing really. But when you combine that with the high top line, that's a bunch of money. 8% on a $50,000 house, is not that big a deal, but 8% on a $450,000 house is quite a bit. And I think that's that's about the baseline for houses in our area.
Well, and if you think the government's just going to go and spend the money to fix this, there's another thing. I saw just a couple of days ago that the federal budget has increased, or the federal expenditures have increased by 16% in the last year. But the things they're spending it on have not increased in terms of like actual goods, services, whatever that represents. It's solely due to the fact that the federal government has some forms of debt, bonds they sell, which are shorter term and have to be refinanced. And when they get refinanced, because the government can't afford to pay it back, they get refinanced at the current interest rate. So the interest that we're paying as part of our federal budget is causing a 16% increase. In other words, we've got nothing more for the federal budget than we did. We didn't get 16% more of something. What we did is we are paying 16% more in the federal budget in order to cover the cost of the higher interest rates. And what are we doing to cover that? Since we did not get a commensurate 16% increase in tax revenue to cover it, we're borrowing the money. So we're using one credit card to pay the other credit card.
Yeah.
And we're going on to a higher interest rate credit card when we do it.
Yeah. And the solution is incredibly simple. It's just stop spending the money. But like you just pointed out, now we're kind of in a catch-22 because it's not like we're increasing the federal budget to, as you say, provide more goods or services, whatever that might be. We have to increase the federal budget to pay for the money that we've already borrowed, which is, what is that number now, Kevin? 33, 34 trillion?
33, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why printing money is the worst thing that you can do. If you really want to put America first, stop printing money.
Well, and maybe stop donating it to people who want to print it, and also stop donating it to people who want to. Well, so now here, Democrat fundraiser Act Blue. That's the entity that helps raise money for progressives to help them beat conservatives. Act Blue is processing donations right now for an illegal immigrant bail fund. The goal of the donations is to end mass incarceration of what they say are black immigrants. I guess you have to be a certain color to get bailed out. And level the playing field of equity and due process. So they are literally taking donations. This is the same entity that takes donations for Val Hoyle. In fact, if you go into that article I posted, and Joe Biden, if you go into that article I posted about Val Hoyle, they have a link when you read the article to go donate to Act Blue to help Val Hoyle. And while you're there, you can also donate to bail out people that are coming from apparently Africa and Haiti.
Black illegals.
Across the southern border. And, I guess these are the ones that need to be bailed out because the ones that are drug mules, they don't need it. And the human traffickers are all set. They've got their bail fund already.
Well, I'm sure they do in Oregon.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. No, this is, when I read this, I was just like, yeah, I got to tell David about this one. It's the Act Blue Black Immigrant Bailout, Illegal Immigrant Bailout Fund.
Oh, God. Yeah, we saw the same thing with Antifa and BLM. I think, if I remember correctly, Act Blue was collecting money for BLM.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Crazy.
Well, Joe Biden has no idea any of this is going on, and this is a good thing to end on. Joe Biden apparently...
Lucky Joe.
Lucky Joe.
He doesn't know. He has no idea.
Someone else is doing all this
doesn't even know what "Let's Grow Brandon" means. Still,
no, he doesn't. He is just about 6 months out from sitting in the corner and drooling. He's just got nothing happening. So here's the thing: he's not going to the major UN climate meeting in Dubai. Where the Brain Trust is. He's not going because apparently he's very busy being president. They didn't say he was on vacation, which is what he spent most of his presidency doing, is being on vacation. He spent, actually not most, it's about a third. So he spent 1 year of his 3 years on vacation. But he is not going to go because he is apparently very busy trying to figure out, as a hands-on type of guy, how to free the hostages taken by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. And I'll bet everybody's really interested in what he has to say in order to solve that problem. He apparently only attended it for 3 hours last year when the last one took place in Egypt. And but John Kerry said that, you know, he's a busy guy and he didn't have time to attend.
Yeah.
So he sent John Kerry in his place. So Joe doesn't know. He's not going to go to this stuff anymore. The most amazing thing in this article, and everybody has to read this article, is that Kamala Harris, who literally does have absolutely nothing else to do, is also not going. When you're so bad that when you've got nothing to do and you're the vice president of the United States and they still won't send you, you are not good for their cause.
Well, John Kerry will fit right in because he has an unusually large private jet for
Yes.
a private person. He's got the
And
big ketchup jet.
The big ketchup jet. Air Force ketchup. Number one. Yeah.
The Heinz Mobile.
Yeah. Well, we had all the stories tonight, David. We really did. And we ended we ended strong on a good Let's Go Brandon story. But thanks for joining me here tonight. This is a blast, and I got to head on to my next meeting. But thank you for joining me. Thanks everyone out there for watching and joining us. And yep, we had some good eye rolls tonight, Bobby. And thank you for being there to watch us. And do share it with everyone you can. Some people need to laugh at this stuff, and they just need to know it's happening because you just wouldn't know. Actually, it's silly stuff.
True.
It's like it seems like it's a comedy show, and this is a stand-up that we do, but there's no preparation. We just start reading headlines and talk about it. And if you're laughing, it's because it's
laugh or cry, folks. Laugh or cry.
Laugh or cry. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Less Government, More Fun. I haven't fled Portland yet, but I gave you 10 more reasons to consider it tonight. Thanks, and we'll see you tomorrow night on the next episode of The Captive Audience. It'll probably be us. So we'll be back with more fun.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.